What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today. I am Sean Murphy, joined by a special guest, someone from one of my favorite sports shows of all time. He was the Big Drew of Big Drew and Jim in GR. He is now also the in-arena host for the Grand Rapids Gold here in my hometown for that G League team. My guy, Drew, aka Drewski, or not Drewski on Twitter. Drew, what's going on, man? Seriously, thanks so much for being here.
Well, ahoy, ahoy, Sean. I'm happy to be here with you. This is a pleasure, a thrill. I love talking basketball. As you mentioned, I love working with the Gold at the Van Andel Arena. We had an amazing season. Got to see a couple of guys get called up. I mean, every time I see Jalen Pickett shoot, I'm reminded of his buzzer beater at the start of the season for us. Yep. So it's just one of those amazing things to get to continue to be a part of, not just sports in my hometown, but sports on a national scale by getting to be associated with the Nuggets. I got to high five Russell Westbrook this year. So
Heck,
that
yeah.
was cool. But no, man, I'm thrilled to be a part of the show. I was honored when you shot me a DM and asked me to be on. That was super cool. I'm very thrilled to be here. Can't wait to talk hoops.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was telling you before we were recording, but just absolutely, just love the show that you and Jim Costa did back in the day. Obviously, Jim off doing great things, you still doing great things and doing it here in GR as well. Just absolutely an honor to be able to sit down and talk hoops with you, man. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I mean, real quick, while we did touch on like the G League thing, I am just curious of like you said, you got high five by Russell Westbrook. You're around, like you talked about how like being around the game and seeing that's just been like super fun and like your favorite part. To people who don't understand, like how exciting is G League basketball? Because like as someone who's been able to cover it, it's a really good product.
It's really underrated, honestly. I think it got a bad rap for its initial iteration, if that makes sense. It's like people thinking that MMA is still what the UFC was in its first version. It's not that anymore. Things evolve, things grow. It's better run. It's better officiated, although I disagree with a lot of it on many nights when it goes against my team.
Of course. But
that's the job. I think that people fail to understand that these guys are all still professional basketball players, right? Like that's the craziest thing to me is there was one time my boss, and a big shout out to Phil Cronin, our in-game director. He goes, "Hey Drew, get out there in the layup line with those guys." I said, "Absolutely not. Can't do it. It's disrespectful." To me, that's disrespectful. Like I don't have a contract. I haven't earned that right. I get to wear a jersey like they do, and I'm thrilled by that. But beyond that, I don't have any designs on thinking I'm a part of the team other than in arena entertainment. You know, I get to be around Andre Miller 24 games a year. Like that's insanity to me. Like that's one of the 75 greatest point guards of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think people don't understand is even the coaches that you're seeing in the G League are impressive. You never know who's going to show up. My first season, we played the Magic, so I got to see Mac McClung dunk all over our heads.
Great.
And then they had Jet Howard still down in the G at the time, so we had Juwan sitting courtside.
That's crazy.
And then this year, we had the Nuggets on a layover decided to come join us. As you mentioned, I got to high five Russell Westbrook this year. We had an on-court game, with Hunter Tyson and DeAndre Jordan. Like I was on court with a gold medalist.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, and it was a Tuesday night in Grand Rapids.
You
can get tickets for $10. It's one of the most incredible things that you can witness for the price. And we bring it every single night. That's the biggest thing is, hoopers, right? When do they actually take a night off?
Never.
No, they don't. They're sickos. They love this stuff, man. They live for it. So you got to come out and see it. That's the biggest thing I tell people is you can talk about it. You can tell them what it is, but it is basketball, man. It is grimy. It is gritty. Some nights it's pretty, but it's always going to be basketball. Every night we open the doors and we play 4 quarters.
And these guys are all fighting and scratching and clawing for opportunities in the NBA to, get more minutes in the G League. And, even for, even for playing opportunities for Europe and across the world too. But a lot of guys did play professional basketball for a while and take that financial gamble to go play in the G because it's that worth it to try and get to the NBA. And like you said, like with like the Nuggets flying out to Grand Rapids, which that's like one of the coolest things I think I've seen an NBA team do this season. And also just the way that you're seeing, and even like you said, just all the impressive people that are across the G. I've been able to get to know more of like the people a part of the Motor City Cruise just because I cover the Pistons, and that like that relationship's kind of already built. And like Nate McMillan's son, Jamel McMillan, is the coach of the Cruise, and he's going to coach an NBA team within 5 years. So like it's not just development for the players, like it's for the coaches, it's for the referees, it's for everybody. And you're going to see someone that's going to be a major impact in the NBA in some way or form within the next couple of years if you go see a G League game. It's like it's almost guaranteed.
No, absolutely. We've had every single season guys playing in Grand Rapids that end up either making an impact for the Nuggets or that end up getting signed and making an impact elsewhere. I mean, the quick rundown of guys, I've only been with the team 2 years now, but the quick rundown of guys I've gotten to see play that are in the NBA that have made an impact for teams. How about Jay Huff? You guys know Jay Huff, Memphis Grizzlies stud?
Yep.
He was in Grand Rapids last year. Got to see Jay play. One of the nicest 7-footers you'll ever meet. 7-footers are scary. Jay is a sweetheart. Colin Gillespie lit it up for the Phoenix Suns early in the season when they were shorthanded. Okay, Colin was with us last season. Love Colin. Great guy. Jameer Young got signed by the Bulls halfway through our season this year. Shout out to Jameer. Has that dog in him. I wish they didn't have 1,000 guards in Chicago so he'd see some minutes, but he is an absolute fighter. You're going to see more out of that guy. Jalen Pickett, man, you're seeing him with the Nuggets every single game now. He's getting minutes. Hunter Tyson, same thing. These are guys that I spent time with this year that are great guys that I'm rooting for because I got to see them in Grand Rapids. I got to see them play up close, and they take the time. This is not like one of those things where you're going to be there and they're not accessible to you. Like it was when the Nuggets came to town, Christian Brown at halftime sat in his seat and signed autographs for anyone who wanted to come down and get their autograph signed.
That's awesome.
We didn't expect it. He didn't say he was doing it. He just decided, no, this is what I'm going to do.
That's awesome. That's actually pretty incredible. And, I think like Grand Rapids pretty lucky too, in the sense of like, like obviously it's always, like there was the Pistons affiliation at one point, but then Detroit moved their team closer, which is understandable. That's been a trending move that a lot of teams have been doing throughout the league. But to be, if you're going to have another franchise come in and be the like the affiliate franchise with your G League team, what a time to have the Denver Nuggets be your affiliate team, especially just with everything going on. I definitely do want to talk about Jokic in that crew in a little bit, just because Jokic is one of my favorite players of all time, let alone guys going right now. But yeah, no, I absolutely love the G League, and just had to pick your brain on it as someone who gets to be around it all the time. It's just it's a really cool league and a really fun product. I mean, one of my favorite basketball experiences ever was going and see Isaiah Thomas suit up for Grand Rapids and score like 40, 50 points. And then within like 36, 48 hours, he was in Target Center playing in a Lakers uniform.
Yep. No, it's, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it, to be honest with you. It's one of those things that, like, if you love basketball, you'll love the G League. It's that simple to me. If you love basketball, you will love the G League. There is someone or something for everyone at every game. If you're somebody who was a college hoops head, guess what? Drew Timmick came and lit us up this year. If you are a draft head, Killian Hayes, I want to say, dropped a triple-double on me this year.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where I think if people gave the G League a chance, it can impress you. It is so much fun, and we treat it like an entertainment product. We do Flint Tropics Night every year. Sean, would love to see you out next year. Tickets on me, honestly.
That sounds awesome. I'm so in.
Last year we did Jackie Moon wrestles a bear at halftime. We had a full wrestling ring. We
That's so
had
awesome.
Yeah, we partnered with and gosh, I don't want to give the wrong shout out. We partnered with a great pro wrestling company. Please, everyone, go and look them up. I want to say they're based out of Holland. Love them a lot. I can't remember the name of them off the top of my
I'll
head.
try and see if I can find it.
Yeah, they were phenomenal to work with. Really well run, incredibly professional. The wrestlers, the performers, everyone from jump was so much fun to work with.
Pure pro wrestling.
Pure Pro, yeah, Pure Pro. Thank you. Yes, Pure Pro. Big shout out to them and their whole crew. We loved working with them, and we would love to do it again in a heartbeat. So, but yeah, it's an experience. It's the G League, man. People aren't always going to remember who won or lost, but they're going to remember Isaiah Thomas scored 50. They're going to remember Jackie Moon wrestled a bear, right?
If they don't remember Jackie Moon wrestling a bear, they need professional help. There's something going on.
Something in the water in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
But no, Sean, I really appreciate it. Thank you, man. And seriously, everyone, please come out, support your local G League teams. Support pro sports in all their forms. Head out and go see the Whitecaps. Go see the Lugnuts. Go and see the Loons, I think, is another team in Michigan. I'm just naming off baseball teams because we're in baseball season now. But like attend local basketball tournaments. Go and support it. Buy a hot dog. Buy a T-shirt. Support local sports.
If you want free, if you want especially in today's world, if you want great entertainment at a great value and to be able to enjoy all sorts of different experiences and potentially see someone that could be doing amazing things in the big league someday, any of those teams is a great option. I mean, there's a couple guys on the Whitecaps right now who very well could be all-star caliber players someday. So
you never know.
Yeah, man. Hey, and you know what? I don't really get to talk a whole lot of Grand Rapids on this podcast, so it's great to be able to actually sit down and talk more about the hometown and shout it out, because there is a lot of great things sports-wise happening here in GR. So glad to be able to talk about it. But I mean, in general, Drew, I would argue it's the best time to be a basketball fan in the state of Michigan in 30 years. I mean, obviously the Pistons, they've had success in that realm, but between Michigan State, and the Pistons all being as good as they have been, I don't think the stars have aligned like that in a long time. But just from the Pistons side of things, what did you see from your perspective that was different about this season? Obviously I've been around the team. I can, I could tell you about all these little cultural things that they did, but just as someone who watched the team and from an outside looking in, what did you see about this year that felt different than years past? Because this really was a season unlike what the Pistons have seen in 20 years.
I mean, it was a season unlike anyone has ever seen, right? Historical level of turnaround, historical level of improvement, and a historical level of surpassing any expectation anyone could have come into the season having, right? From an outsider perspective, I think, and I've become a big fan, and it's funny, since retiring from radio, I've become a big fan of basketball podcasts, right? Love yours. One of my other favorites is
thanks, man.
Six Trophies. Shea Serrano, Jason Concepcion. Love those guys. And at one point during the season, when Cade was kind of starting to heat up a little bit, one of the guys on that podcast said it's because they brought some adults into the room.
Yes.
And I think from an outsider perspective, that was the biggest difference to me. Right? Isaiah Stewart's been Isaiah Stewart the entire time he's been in the league. This is the man he is, right? Yes, he's improved parts of his game, but he is the junkyard dog of this team. He's the guy. Cade has always had the talent and the skill. It's always been there. It's just not been able to be fully unlocked, fully utilized. It's like trying to drive a Ferrari through downtown Detroit. Sure, it looks cool, but it's not going to go very fast. It's got a big engine in there, and you can rev it, you can see it. But what's it gonna do?
Yeah, let's drive a NASCAR. Let's drive a NASCAR through a subdivision. That'll be fun.
And it wasn't, man. Oh, it wasn't fun. It wasn't this year. It was fun. Oh, it was fun again to watch Piston basketball, and having adults in the room matters. I think a lot of people were crying about the signing of Tobias Harris in the offseason, thinking the Pistons overpaid. I think when you win 14 games, you have to overpay.
Yes.
And I think to get that level of veteran leadership, of steadiness, and of consistent production, you pay for it. And I think Tobias brought that to that team this year. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. gets overlooked as much as he does get praised for being an adult in the room, someone who can not just stand up for himself, stand up for his minutes, stand up for the other guys in the room, but to stand up for Cade, because that's your superstar. That's your guy. And not just to coaches about like, hey, that doesn't work. We can't do that. That doesn't work for Cade. But he's that guy who can go to the refs. Tim Hardaway Jr. has that cachet with the refs. He's got the name, he's got the pedigree, and he has, again, a little bit of time in the league. He's gotten to know these guys a little bit. They know Tim Hardaway Jr. and they know him as a respectable, clean player. He's not a flopper, right? He's a hard worker. He's that guy who's just out here doing his job. I think Malik Beasley has been invaluable as a guy who just reminds Cade to have fun. I think Cade got too serious last season. I think that was a big thing that dragged him down. I think joy is so essential to his game that when you take that away, you limit him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the end result, again, you brought adults into the room and it brought the fun back. I think from an outsider perspective, those were the biggest things that made a major difference this year. Yes, the young guys grew up, absolutely. But I want to believe a lot of them were here last year. I think a lot of them were at this point last year or closer than we knew. And I think that with guys around them to help make sure that, one, their skills were being utilized properly, two, they're getting respect from the referees, and three, they're not getting bullied by the rest of the league.
Yep.
I think those were some of the major things that I saw from an outsider perspective, Sean.
No, and I think those are I think those are all absolutely spot on. And I think you had kind of a stars aligning situation in the sense that you had everyone on your team felt like they had something to prove or something to establish, right? Like JB Bickerstaff getting fired the way that he did from Cleveland, the game just ending, like the game not even being done yet, and there was already a hit piece about him, in the papers, and he was literally like one of the best coaches in the history of the franchise, right? You have guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. who were traded away and thought, that he was one of the reasons why they didn't win a championship in Dallas last year. Turns out there might be a whole lot of reasons, but that's a whole I don't know. Tobias Harris literally scapegoated by the entire city of Philadelphia,
right?
And made fun of by the entire NBA. People coming in saying, "Oh, he was overpaid." I'd argue if that's how the season went, I think you feel pretty good about every single penny you spent on Tobias Harris. And then Malik Beasley coming in and being on yet another team, signing a 1-year, $6 million deal, and then having essentially what's on par with one of Klay Thompson's greatest shooting seasons ever, but in a Pistons uniform next to Cade Cunningham. And then I think the joy thing, like that really resonated with me too, because that's one of the things that in JB in his press conferences, one of the first things he said is we got to bring like the joy, like day to day back, because like things get so tense, and especially last season, all the pressure that mounts, and it might sound stupid to people at home, but like it's amazing how quickly you can lose the fun and joy of playing a game that you played in your childhood that you love once dollars and cents get thrown into it, once social media followers and brand deals and like contracts, like once you get focused on all those things, it could be very quick that you lose the joy of basketball, especially when you go on a historic losing streak. So to have someone come in and not only get this group out of the rut that they were in last year, but to have a turnaround of historic proportions, like one of the greatest single season turnarounds, not just in the history of the sport, but in the history of sport, period. And when something like that happens, especially with a franchise in the Pistons that has so much resonance with the state of Michigan, with the sport itself, like the Pistons are one of the premier like organizations in the NBA. When the league's at its best, the Pistons are one of the teams that are fighting. So I just think you saw and as someone that got to cover like game 3 and game 6 in person, man, I'm surprised my eardrums are functioning, because that building was ridiculously loud. Ridiculous.
That's so cool. And it's fun because like I have a 17-year-old, so he saw his first Pistons wins of his lifetime in the playoffs.
Crazy.
And he's now getting into it. Like we're texting late at night, like, oh,
yep.
And he, Duran got robbed, blah, 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 and we're just having fun with it. And it's bringing entire generations that had given up on the Pistons back.
Yes. My parents who haven't watched Pistons basketball since Chauncey Billups got traded. Yep. They were hooting and hollering at the TV. They're like, man, we should have bought tickets. We should have been there. Like to me, it's like I use my parents as a barometer of how relevant because those are like the casuals, the people that aren't always super tuned in, right? Like when you're sickos like you and I, you're gonna care about all the little things. But it's like, oh, my parents are into this. Okay, this is real.
This is hitting now. Yep, this is an actual cultural thing that I have to admit isn't just a me thing anymore. Other people are in on this. There's a larger resonance than just my little circle.
Yep.
And that was absolutely this Pistons season. Like zero hesitation. That resonated throughout the state. The state needed it. Yep. Honestly. And coming off of the way I think the Lions season ended.
Yes.
You know, I think Michigan needed this.
Yeah.
I think the state needed it. I think you needed that pick me up. And I think Cade heating up the way he did throughout the season, because it was gradual. Let's be real about it. It wasn't instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
It got better all season, which is insane, by the way.
Yep.
Cade Cunningham got better every game.
Yep. Even in the postseason.
Yes, absolutely. And listen, as somebody who has been openly like, yeah, you expected a little bit more. And then I had to sit back and go, I mean, did I expect him to beat Jalen Brunson his first playoff series? Maybe I did. And that's not fair.
Right.
That's not fair to Cade.
But it tells you how good he is, that so many people feel like they can set that bar that high for someone that young who can't legally rent a car in all 50 states yet. But like plays like he like you can, in the way he carries himself, you almost forget he's not 27, 28 sometimes, because he's so mature. He's so driven. He's so focused in and locked in. And you don't have the problems with a Cade Cunningham that you do with other young guys, or even guys who have been in the league for almost 10 years now, where it's like, dude, you got to get in shape. You don't have to tell Cade Cunningham that.
No. Cade Cunningham, the biggest thing the Pistons have that other franchises are still searching for is they have the guy. Yep. Like there's no question. There's no doubt. And he's committed to Detroit. He's not just committed to basketball, because there are tons of guys that are committed to basketball. Cade Cunningham has adopted being a uniquely Detroit basketball player. I'm sure you've had the discussions with your friends of like, who's the most Detroit player that never played for Detroit, right?
Yep.
Like the current answer is Marcus Smart, in my opinion. It's Marcus Smart is the most Detroit player who's never played for Detroit. But Cade Cunningham has, from what he was in college, molded himself into a Detroit player. He has built armor around himself. Like every year he gets tougher. I swear him and Isaiah Stewart probably just in the offseason, they go out into the woods and just beat each other with rocks. All right, your turn. All right,
don't try me up for those sessions, by the way. I'm good on that.
Yeah, no, count me out. Not that tough. But the beard confuses people. I just feel like he has gotten that thing in him. He figured out the personality of the city and said, bet.
Yep.
I can match that energy. Like from draft night, we should have known. Draft night, we should have known. He said, cool. Put these on.
Yep.
And he was a Detroiter. Like immediately was one of us, for lack of better terminology. I'm not from Detroit. I'm not a Detroiter. Don't come for me. Okay, please. I know
but he embraced our city, he embraced our team and our state. And, like to me, like the thing that stood out to me with Cade and that resonates at that point so well. I'm not sure if you remember his first game well at all or not. It was against the Magic. It was a regular season game at home. I remember when they announced he was going to play, I didn't even look at my bank account. I just bought a ticket and I just made it happen. And I remember, I'll never forget the first play that got the people to stand on their feet, because normally when you get like a standing ovation in the NBA, you hit some awesome three, you made an incredible offensive play. He dove for a loose ball, and that's what got people to in Detroit to stand up and cheer and celebrate. Like we're not your normal run of the mill NBA city. We're like, I mean, yeah, we love alley oops, we love 3-pointers. Don't get me wrong, but like we love the gritty. Like that's what we're about. Oh, I have a whole sound, but I have a whole monstrosity I can pull here with this. Don't worry.
No, but this is the city that loved late in life Blake Griffin.
Yes.
Like we embraced him because we said, "Nah, you can still dunk. You can still dunk." And he fought people for us. Like those weren't Blake Griffin's greatest years, but he was a great Piston in those years.
Yeah.
That's why people fell in love with this team so quickly. That's why your parents care about this team, is because it's entirely new, because it's this NBA. This NBA is different. This is not the violent NBA that we loved in the past. But this team is, in fact, violent within this pretty NBA.
Yep.
And they're going to carve out their own thing. You know, it's one of those things where, like, people joke, like, you hate a player unless he's on your team, right? People hate Anthony Edwards. I love Anthony Edwards on the Pistons. I think he's a perfect fit.
Yeah, sensational.
I think there's a lot of guys in the league now that we have an identity again. And, like, I can't hide it. We have an identity again.
Yep.
You know, it was what made me think we could beat the Knicks. Yeah. Josh Hart saying, we don't know what we are. Well, I know what the Pistons are, and they're tougher than you, buddy.
Well, in the Knicks, I mean, they might have gotten to the next round. They might have won that series. They did not do so in a comfortable fashion. And I mean, look at the score right now. I mean, it's a single digit game in the fourth quarter, but I would exactly say they got to the second round in one piece after that. And here's a little nugget I like to share with people too. Because I covered game 6 and I had to walk right by the Knicks locker room after that game to go over to like the Pistons media room for post-game pressers and things like that.
Yeah.
Drew, when I tell you that Knicks locker room sounded like they booked a finals appearance, like they were screaming, like they were like, yeah, like you could hear them in the hallway. Like and don't get me wrong, you should be able to celebrate winning a playoff series. That's not what I'm saying at all. Like that is an accomplishment. But like this Knicks team was designed to beat the Celtics, and they're celebrating beating the Detroit Pistons in the first round. Like just think about that. That's like that. Imagine saying that a year ago.
I think that might have been why they were so excited, though, right? You didn't want to be the team that lost to the Pistons in the first playoff appearance. First playoff win in 17 years. You didn't want to be those guys, right? It's just like you didn't want to be the goalie that gave up Ovi's goal, right? You didn't. Yeah. Nobody wants to be that stat in history, but you almost were.
Yep.
Isaiah Stewart, Jaden Ivey. It's a different series.
Yeah. One whistle goes a different way in game 4. We could be talking about how the Pistons played in game 7 in the Garden, which if it got there, you cannot say as a Knicks fan you feel great about that, because the Pistons were 4-1 in the Garden this season.
That's correct.
3-1. Like they completely took care of business every time they went and played in Madison Square Garden. And I mean, yeah, it sucks that Detroit didn't get a win on their home court because the fans more than showed out and did their part. But I mean, at the same time, I think when you look at this season, yeah, you can't put a banner up for saying that you revitalized your fan base, but like, I don't think people understand that that's like about as close to getting a championship without getting one as you can get when you talk about the implications going forward. Like Pistons basketball is back and it's cool again. And you haven't been able to say that since Obama was campaigning.
We have hope.
Exactly. Like if you're a sports fan, what better commodity to sell than hope? That's what you're looking for as a fan. You just want hope at the end of the day. You just want to believe you have a chance.
Yeah. No, and this Pistons team has a chance for years to come. You know, the free agents we're dealing with in the offseason are not unattainable to re-sign. And I think, Sean, we'd be remiss if, like, yes, let's celebrate this moment. Let's enjoy this Pistons time. But I think we both know the buzzword of the day, the hot topic, is trades.
Yep.
It is the headline at the Ringer.
Yep. Kurt Goldsberry wrote a really good piece.
It is the topic on everyone's lips today. So, Sean, I'm going to flip the script on you. Are there any of them that you like? And is the cost worth paying to you? Because there's a difference between liking the idea and wanting to actually pay the price.
Yep. So I think it's interesting because when you talk about the Pistons going and making a move, it's a really, really unique, fickle balance that they have to walk. Because when I think of all the ways that the Pistons have put themselves in bad situations or have set themselves back over the years, it's always been when they've had cap space or an opportunity has arisen to spend it, right? A lot of times, granted, I think a lot of that like was born out of desperation, like the Blake Griffin move. That was made by Stan Van Gundy to save his job, right? Yes. The Josh Smith signing, that had been a long time since the Pistons have had a great player in Detroit. He was an all-star caliber player. Joe Dumars at like probably trying to save his job as well. A little bit of an act of desperation. Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva. You just lost your going to work crew and you wanted to try and replace it and still stay competitive. That was, not necessarily the best thought out either. All those moves completely set your salary cap back. So looking at the Pistons, I think you absolutely have a lot of evidence to say, go support this team, go bolster this team. But like you said, is there someone right now that is worth going out and making that move for? Like the names that I've heard around Detroit have been guys like Zion Williamson, Domantas Sabonis, and like the crazy like far out one is Devin Booker, but he's not getting traded. So let's not even, like we both want that to happen more than anything. Don't get me wrong, but that's just not happening.
No, it's a pipe dream, if you will. Like, yeah. I would love it. I think it's an amazing fit. He just did the Chevy collab with his Nike shoe.
Yep.
It's literally, it's a perfect fit.
And Grand Rapids legend, hometown kid. Would be great. But to me, this group played so well together, and the culture that they implemented was such a significant part of this team's success that if you're going to break up key pieces of that, you have to make sure whatever you're doing is going to guarantee taking that next step. And as great of a talent as Zion is, when he's missed more games than he's played in his career, I just have a hard time saying, okay, go trade Ron Holland, one of the most exciting young up-and-coming rookies. By the way, G League Ignite alumni, and some like probably the only player outside of the Pistons who knew exactly what they were going through when he came in, because he was a part of that historic losing season with the Ignite.
He was, yes. I know that because the Gold cooked him in the showcase in Orlando.
Yep.
We enjoyed doing that.
Yep.
For the record, by the way, I'm going to take a quick mea culpa moment. I was so wrong about that kid on draft night. I hated that draft pick. I said, he can't shoot. He can't do it. We drafted the same guy last year, and he's great. And he's electrifying, and I love him, and I cannot wait to see the potential. So I got to own that one real quick in case anyone goes back through my Twitter mentions. It's like, ooh, yeah, I did. Did not like it.
I, honestly, though, like the biggest thing I've learned, like, who cares if you're wrong as long as you admit it? You know what I mean? Like
just own it.
Yeah, it's the least consequential thing on the planet. Like, oh, I take a mine didn't bear out.
Yeah,
just learn from it.
I'll say right now, I have 0% interest in Zion Williamson. 0%. My favorite ability is availability.
Yep, me too.
And I think that's just not going to cut it. I don't think that does it for anyone. Sabonis is intriguing. He's intriguing because he does the things very well that no one else on this team does very, very well. Does he space the floor though? Does he? If you trade, because I think any Sabonis package is going to end up including Tobias to make the money work. Does he do the things Tobias was doing?
Yeah.
Sabonis is he that guy?
He technically can space the floor. He was like 42% on the season, but he only shot like 2 attempts per game.
Right.
My big thing with Sabonis has always been, and I don't want to bash Sabonis or anything.
No,
But I always find Sabonis, the idea, turns out to always be better than Sabonis, the player and execution,
yeah,
especially when you get into postseason time, especially when you get to later in season. And that's not to nitpick and say he's a bad player. That's not the case at all. It's
no,
just if you're talking to me and going, okay, if you're going to spend those assets and you have to absolutely make sure that it's going to make your team better. I just don't know if I can definitively say that about DeMontis Sabonis. If you can get him at like 70 or 80 cents on the dollar, then maybe that's a little bit of a different conversation. But like, now because like you're talking about like you're gonna have to throw out some like pretty consistent names if you want to go and make that type of move. And so that's why for me, my argument has always been I don't necessarily think the deadline for this team to go make a move is this summer. I think
no.
the deadline is the trade deadline. Like, I think you look at a team like the Indiana Pacers, who, like, because to me, I think if you want, like, if you want to look at like the best blueprint of what Detroit should do, it's them because they were a really fun, up and coming, young, scrappy team that waited until the right player became available for them. They went and identified him, got Pascal Siakam, and now they're a perennial conference final team every year, right? Like just because of that one move. And I think that has legit runway to be really good for years to come. I think the team that you want to avoid being is the Atlanta Hawks, where you wait too long to make a move. And then when you do, you go get DeJounte Murray, who is a good player, but like was never that needle mover.
Yeah,
Didn't really change the things of that team that were actually the problem. And so now like that just completely like hindered whatever window that even could have been, right? So that's the interesting thing about the NBA is there's so many different examples of teams who get into similar situations. Even the Kings, like their window closed before they even knew it could have been open.
yeah. That's why I like the Sabonis idea a little bit. Is like you mentioned, I think he might be affordable, but I also think anyone on the Kings might be affordable. I don't think you can keep all three of those guys this summer. I think one of the two, DeRozan or Levine, are definitely on the move. And
Yeah.
if you can get Levine for cheaper than what the Bulls were asking, I don't hate the idea of Zach Levine in a reduced ask role, right? I
Yep.
don't want to give up Jaden Ivey for him, but if all I have to give up is a pick and like, I don't want to say anyone is expendable, but a couple of salary guys that aren't, you're not going to miss a ton. Zach Levine is still a heck of a good basketball player. Creates his own shot, shoots well from range. He's not dunking like he was against Aaron Gordon in the dunk contest, and you don't need him to. You don't want him to. You want Cade doing that. You want Jaden Ivey doing that. And I still want Jaden on the team. I still want Asar on the team. And that's the problem, I think, is Sacramento wants to get young guys in return. They don't want draft capital. I think they want to continue to, as someone put it, they want to continue to middle. And maybe that's all they need to do to be happy as a franchise, as an ownership group, is make the play-in every year. Maybe the 6th seed sometimes.
Yep.
And maybe that's good enough. And that's fine. No,
I think with how bad they botched the Luka Doncic trade or Luka Doncic draft, I think they're so spooked out of the rebuild because of I think the Marvin Bagley thing's going to haunt them for a long time, man. And that's the thing. That's not the only draft moment that the Kings have had in that light. Really, the only guy that they had that met whatever standard they had for that draft pick was De'Aaron Fox, and he's in San Antonio now. And that's why it's so tough is because you like people could like throwing out like, oh, just go in a rebuild. It's the easiest buzzword or solution on the face of the planet. But as Pistons fans can now attest, when you get into a rebuild, there is no guarantees that you're just out of it in the next couple of years, even when you have players that are guaranteed to be like special NBA players.
It's tough, man. It was tough sledding. It was tough sledding for a couple of years there, but now you've emerged.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing to see the Pistons being talked about even in the conversation for some of these players, right? Like to go from, let's go 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, no one's talking about trading a superstar to Detroit. It's just not happening because the superstar won't go. They'll refuse the trade. They'll turn it down. They'll sit out. That was how bad things were for the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
I mean, last year it was that bad, which again, it blows my mind that one of the architects of last year is getting another chance in the NBA. What are you doing, New Orleans?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the fact that, I mean, it to me, when I saw the Joe Dumars news, I was like, okay, great for Joe. You know, like that's, you know, it's been a long time. He probably gets another chance. Like, I understand it. When I saw Troy Weaver was joining him, and it's like, you know, maybe they can like cover each other's weaknesses, because like Joe's a good like roster, like a assembler of a roster, but he can't draft worth a damn. Troy's a great scout, but he doesn't know how to build a basketball team. Maybe you combine that, you get a good executive, but like at the same time, it makes you certainly have some questions, to say the least.
I can't get behind the idea, and this is I feel the same way about Bill Belichick coaching college football, right?
Yeah.
I can't get behind the idea of just because you used to be good at it, you're still going to be good at it.
That's fair.
It's a tough sell for me. Joe D built one of my favorite basketball teams of all time.
And then he built one of my least favorite. Like in a flip of a dime, he built a team that also killed my love for the sport for a good bit there.
I think Joe D's actions after the going to work Pistons are part of the reason that Tom Gores went star chasing for as long as he did.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of the reason that, as you previously mentioned, SVG had to acquire Blake Griffin to save his job from Tom Gores.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like it's just that situation over and over again. It was that over and over again. As much as nowadays, 2025, you say Ben Gordon, Charlie Villanueva, people look at you like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Those were legitimate all-stars, gang. Charlie V was that guy, and Ben Gordon could hoop.
Ben Gordon was like the best sixth man in the league, and was like thought of like, if you give him his own team, he could cook.
He's gonna go. And at the time, as Pistons fans, we justified and we believed in Joe.
Yeah.
And it just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
It just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And we kept justifying it. And how's this? I'll throw in a little college basketball sacrilege while I'm at this here. How long are we going to do that for Tom Izzo as Spartan fans?
Yeah. How
long are we going to 2000 title our way through this thing? I love Tom. Close personal friend of my father. Not really. Tom Izzo is one of those guys who I look at in the same light as I look at Joe Dumars. Is just because you did it once, and I'll American society the heck out of this. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
Joe D has not managed, run, operated, signed, drafted, scouted, negotiated. Joe's how old now?
Yeah, Joe was a advisor for the Kings up until like 2022 or 2023.
Yeah.
He worked in the league office for like 2 or 3 years. He's definitely in his 50s at least.
I mean, Joe, this is the biggest thing.
61.
More than any other league, the NBA is a players' league. Yes,
mm-hmm.
It is run by the players. Players determine where they want to play, when they want to play, how they want to play. And I think we've seen in recent years more than anything that the old school approach with these young guys doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't. It hasn't won in years. What's winning is new basketball. And if Joe Dumars is on board with new basketball and not what he's used to, okay, this could work. This could maybe work. I don't know a whole lot of 61-year-olds who don't just want what they're used to.
Yeah.
So if I'll be as stereotypy as possible. If Joe can resist putting on Matlock, he'll be fine. But I think it's going to be reruns. I'll be honest with you. I think he's going to try and build that team around Herb, which I love Herb Jones. Don't get me wrong. Love the guy. I think he's a phenomenal basketball player. I don't think he can score. I don't think he can shoot. This isn't like forgetting you're tall, Right. Oh, that's right. I'm tall. I don't think he can score. And I feel like Joe is going to build around all the wrong guys. Do I think they're going to ship Zion out this summer for pennies? Yes, and they should. But they're late. Like you mentioned with Atlanta, they waited too long. The Zion window was 2 years ago, and it closed.
Yeah.
It closed, while many beignet shops around his house opened.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
and just saying, if anyone has an understanding of where Zion's at, because like it's funny, all these people can keep linking Zion to the Pistons. It's like, oh yeah, natural fit. Do people forget where Trajan Langdon worked right before he worked in Detroit? Like, if anyone has the access to his medical records, it's Trajan. And like, if any team could have already gone out and made that move if they wanted to, it's probably Detroit because of those pre-existing relationships. Like, I think it says a lot, like that, like there were two names that people just immediately presumed that Trajan was probably going to try to bring in, like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Neither of them have even sniffed a Pistons locker room yet, and I probably think there's a good reason for that.
They're not a fit.
No,
it's not a fit. Zion culturally is not a fit for these Detroit Pistons, and that is, like you mentioned when we were talking trade candidates, such a big thing. The success of this team is built so much on its personality.
Yep.
It's built so much on its ability to get the most out of guys because they want to play for each other, right? And that's a big thing. That is a big thing. It is something that when JJ Redick was still just a podcaster before he became a basketball coach.
Gives me hope, by the way. Who knows? Maybe I'll be coaching the Gold in a few years now. You know, who knows?
There you go. There you go. God darn it.
That completely catch you off guard. My bad.
That's okay. That's okay. When he was still a podcaster, he talked about some of the teams that he was on, and the best times he had on those teams was when everyone knew their role. Pat Beverly, before he went completely off the rails on his podcast, used to talk about the same thing, about how the best teams were the teams where it might not have been the biggest stars. It might not have been the best players at every position, but everyone knew their job and everyone did their job.
Mm-hmm.
That's this Pistons team to a T.
Yep.
I think everyone is like, oh, I have a job. Malik's like, no, shoot the ball. You know, and it's funny because I think somebody was talking to me the other day. They're like, he just doesn't stop shooting. I don't want him to.
It's his role. It's his job.
He's a shooter. He has to have that confidence level like an NFL quarterback who's going to look you in the eye. Even if he's thrown 12 incompletions in a row, he's going to go, it's okay. I'm still the best on the world. I'm still the best there is. I'm going to make the next one. Don't worry about it. I need that. You need that because then the other guys around him see that and they're like, cool, green light, let's shoot.
Yep.
I think that's a big part of this.
Well, and talk about that Detroit team had zero clarity last year as far as like what roles were, even like what consistent lineups were. Like they still had like 20 or 30 different people who donned a Pistons uniform last year, which during the COVID era, that was one thing. But when you're having that happen in 2024, then it's like all the alarm bells should be ringing off, and it's funny, like bringing it back to something else you said of the Pistons being a place that people are mocking for superstars to be, or like being a destination that could actually happen. Like you brought up how like that wasn't even a thing 5 years ago. 11 months ago, Trajan Langdon at the draft straight up called out agents for not sending their clients to Detroit. He couldn't get clients to work out in Detroit. I don't think that's going to be the case going forward anymore. I think it's a place that you feel more than comfortable sending. Like, if anything, if you're like a wing prospect, for all that's holy, get me alongside Cade Cunningham.
I'm a guard who can shoot. I might be how's this? I'm an undersized two guard who can shoot.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because it actually leans really well into flipping the script. My turn to flip the script a little bit here and ask you a question.
All right, let's go.
So Shams Charania the other day insinuated that the Boston Celtics are going to have to look at breaking up the core that they have because of the expenses and just how unsustainable this team is from a financial standpoint. And because of that, two prominent names to look out for in the trade market, again, per Shams, are Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. Now, before the season, I interviewed Jamel McMillan, the coach of the Crews. I asked him if he could replicate any player and like if there's any player in the league that he can show a young player tape and go, this is how I want you to play. Who would it be? He didn't even think about it. He said Drew Holiday. Another guy that like when you talk about like the risk reward of going and making that trade, Kristaps Porzingis is struggled to play like 60 plus games a year. But man, when he is on the court, talk about one of the most undeniably intriguing players to put alongside a Cade and put on this roster, because there are some elements of it that certainly make sense. I'm not saying that those should be their primary targets, but at the very least, when I saw those two names, those were both guys that, like, when you think about the price that it takes to go get them and the impact they can have on your team for winning, I at least think one of those guys can make a lot of sense wearing a Pistons uniform. I mean, you want to talk about the most Piston guy to never don a Pistons uniform? Is Drew Holiday? Is he on that Mount Rushmore?
He's got to be up there. He's got to be up there, and I love the idea of him so much more than I love the idea of Porzingis. I mean, God bless the Alabaster Unicorn, but he can't stay on the court. He can't, and I think certain players' games age better than others.
Yep.
I think Drew Holiday is going to be able to sit down in that chair and guard 3 out of 5 positions until he retires, because he can guard 5 out of 5 right now. He can guard 5 out of 5 right now. But I think that that's the guy you want if you're the Pistons and you're going to give up what you have to give up to get him, right? Now, might you be able to get it cheaper if this is a financial move? Absolutely, because they're not going to want a player in return. They're going to want a pick way down the road.
Yeah.
And that's encouraging.
That or some young player that they can bring off the bench that they think they can maybe like to me, like if you're Boston, like you'd want to take a bet on like a Bobby Klintman or like one of those like second round like intriguing prospects that could potentially fill out your rotation, because you're going to have such an expensive core for years to come. Which, don't get me wrong, when you have that good of a core, you pay the price for that every single time. But that means that you have to get a lot craftier with filling out your back end and your rotation. By the way, that's why the Celtics are one of the most dedicated teams to their G League program as well.
And their G League has fans that travel, by the way. That is one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. Is I think they're the Maine Lobsters, the Maine Green Lobsters.
Yeah, I think they changed themselves to the Maine Celtics. I think they finally made that change. I could be wrong.
Terrible. They should say the Green Lobsters, one of the best mascots in the G. And we got to play Rock Lobster every time they came to town. Horrible choice. But no, their fans travel. Their fans travel. It was one of the coolest things I've seen. Bucks G League fans travel too. Those are the two that I have seen the most. Cruise fans and Gold fans, we've traveled across the state. That one's fun for me too. I enjoy that one. But they have an incredible G League team. They have an incredible G League program. You think about the Celtics, and you not only think about them having to bring in new ownership because they can't afford to pay everyone anymore, because the old man who previously owned it was like, wait a minute, you spent how many of my money dollars?
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, crazy to me that it was the old guy who was like, whoa. In the nicest way possible, brother, you're going to die soon.
You're not going to be here very much longer. You don't need all those dollars.
Might as well enjoy a few championships.
Yeah.
But his kid is the one who's like, no, spend the dollars.
Yeah.
Get him out. Great. Amazing. It's not sustainable. You're absolutely correct. It's not sustainable. And I think for them, with the development of Peyton Pritchard, you're going to be seeing one of those guards say farewell.
Yep.
I think it's the same situation that, my Denver Nuggets are in, is you can't keep everyone and keep giving minutes to everyone. You've got to see what some of these young guys have. It's what led to Mike Malone being ousted.
Yep.
It's the refusal to give time and development to younger players, or even encouragement if he didn't like the guys.
Yeah.
So, and for the record, that's not me like reporting anything behind the scenes, or that's all the stuff that's been reported above board.
Yep.
Not breaking news. I don't do that anymore. Retired.
And I can tell you that all that's true just because I actually have been pretty lucky to get to know some people who are intimately familiar with the Nuggets and how they run and all that stuff. And it just sounded like that was time, and that was just a boiling over point. And you're seeing, and I even asked like, hey, is Adelman legit? He's like, oh yeah. He's like the brain trust behind that offense. He's a really good coach. Put a staff around him. He can do good things. He just beat Tyronn Lue and Jeff Van Gundy in the playoffs. So I think that proves itself. The Nuggets to me are one of the most fascinating stories in the league for the next 5 years at least, as long as Jokic is one of the best players in the world. Because to me, when you have an opportunity to build around one of the best players in the world, you have to absolutely maximize that. And I think it can be argued that they wasted a year of his career this season because of the fact that they didn't necessarily bolster that roster and fully like complement it. And I don't think Jokic is going to be one of those guys that's going to ask out by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a Nugget for life. You know what I mean? It's like I think it's going to be very akin to like a Dirk Nowitzki situation there. But like in the same light, it is one of those things where it's impossible to go, oh, like not go, okay, are they wasting a potential dynasty here by not going and making extra moves to bolster this roster? Because I mean, legitimately, Jokic is the best big man we've seen in the league since maybe Kareem. Like we're like in like I mean, at the very least, Shaq. Like
Shaq.
that's
Yeah.
at the very least Shaq. Like
Yeah.
it's like but that when you're talking about how historically great he's been and like all the statistics will show you like, oh, he's doing Wilt stuff straight up in a modern NBA, which like is just crazy.
Yeah. No, he's doing what he's doing and having it go unnoticed. The fact that there's already voter fatigue is amazing to me. Like it's incredible. The fact that like I'm not saying that people are making comparisons between the Joker and Michael Jordan, but the fact that you now have to discuss him in the same breath that he should have won straight MVPs. Like there's no reason. And again, not to slight SGA. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander had an incredible season of basketball. Jokic's was better.
Yep.
It was just better. It was just better with less around him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to say that. He was just better. It's not like he's a guy on the Wizards putting up 60, 30, and 30. That's not what's happening. He's on one of the top 4 teams in the Western Conference, owning people by himself.
Scoring at insanely high volumes and shooting almost 60% from the field while doing it. Like historical efficiency, historical, like taking care of the basketball. Just he is a supercomputer that is disguised as a human being who plays basketball. And by the way, if there's anything that can be killed from this year, it damn better be the notion that Jokic doesn't care, because it is the most maddening thing on the planet to me. The dude showed his intense side this year. If you don't think that guy cares,
yeah,
then like I then I have like a timeshare I want to try selling you, man.
I love. There's I think it's Henry Markin is the guy on TikTok who does a great Jokic impression.
Yeah.
But I love that people don't understand that it's just cultural. It's not that he doesn't care. It's transactional, man. It's to him, this is my job. I'm very good at job. Like, and he is. He's the best at his job. But it's a job, right? It's not that he doesn't care about basketball. It's, to be honest, it's that he doesn't care about the trappings of it. He doesn't care about a parade. Oh, why parade? I have job.
Yep.
Like, he doesn't need it. He doesn't.
Still, but one of my favorite Jokic moments is he was like, when I first hear about parade, I go, why we have to do parade? And now he's like, but now I really love parade.
He's that guy. People don't understand. Like, it's one of those things where until you're a part of it, or until you have to like really look into it, his culture is not one that does this. It's not a culture of excess. The fact that he gets to own many horses is great to him because it's a status symbol.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not, listen, and again, we're not talking about like some kind of backwards country that the man is from, but we're talking about a different country than ours. We're talking about a different place, a different way of growing up, a different way of living every single day of life.
Yep.
A different set of things that matter. And I think for Nikolai Jokic, he is best in the world. And he is good at job. And listen, his brothers get to come to games and everyone thinks he's great. And I'm sure that he loves all of those things. But like you said, I'm sure he also violently cares about being the best in the world.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't want to be the best at their job? Like
Exactly.
that's the thing that I think people miss. Yes, basketball is job, and he's the best at his job. Come get it.
Yep. And also people can love their job. Like you don't have to like and they don't have to show it externally all the time. Like especially when it's extremely stressful, which that job is pretty dang stressful, even if it's fun.
Exactly.
And so he's the only guy in the league that could be drafted during a Taco Bell commercial and absolutely not care about it at all.
Nope.
You know?
No.
And I don't think during that commercial anyone thought he would outlast the beef quesarito because that was one of the iconic Taco Bell menu items.
Oh.
But the fact that he managed to do that tells you about his longevity. By the way, before we wrapped up, I did pull up the Maine Celtics logo just to confirm that I was right. And they did change their name to the Maine Celtics. But what if I told you that did not deter them from steering away from the lobster? That is very much still alive and well. It's just they're somehow just called the Celtics now, but still keep that really weird branding. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, let me tell you something. They will still be the Green Lobsters inside of the Van Andel Arena come next season. I would not have it any other way. Would not have it any other way.
Yep. Amen to that.
Thank you so much, man. This was really fun.
No, dude, thank you so much. I had an absolute blast. I just really enjoy, obviously, the work that you've done. And, you know, I told you before, I had the chance to, you know, to meet your father and like my former work before. And just like, that was like one of my favorite interactions in that job ever. And, you know, this felt like a moment that was always coming at some point for me, but, you know, just glad that I was finally able to do it. And seriously, dude, would love to have you back anytime, because this is seriously a lot of fun.
Hey, let me know. I'd love to talk after the draft or leading up to it. If you guys want me to pop on when you're doing that, I'm sure you're doing a cool live draft special. So everyone make sure to check out Sean for that. And listen, thank you so much, man. I really appreciated this.
No, dude, thank you, man. And thank you to everyone who tuned into the episode. Be sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the content coming. It is going to be, just because it's the off season doesn't mean it's our off season. This is going to be when things ramp up. So be sure you're tuned in and be sure you're subscribed.